Good morning, and welcome to another bonus podcast. My name is Kristal Taves, and I'm the pastor of women here at Northview Community Church, and I'm joined today by Thaleia.
Hello, everyone.
My regular podcast buddy.
Yes, buddies.
Yeah, Thaleia is our pastor of care, and we have done this podcast now for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were looking back thinking we started this in 2013, and here we are 5 years later.
I know. Can you imagine? 5 years seems like a long time.
Yeah. So that's part of our announcement, is that this is actually going to be our last bonus podcast.
Yeah.
So tell us why, Thaleia.
Why? Well, we sat down with the other pastors and we decided that it would probably be better if we worked as a bigger team.
Yeah.
Men and women together, so that we are not on every week, because it's a little bit hard for our schedules. But if we dedicate one organizer per week and then a variety of guests among us, it's going to be better.
Yeah, we are realizing here at Northview that we have a lot of irons in the fire, and we want to do a few things well instead of lots of things poorly.
Yes.
And so not that we were doing this poorly or the other ones were doing them poorly, but we thought if we can combine efforts and resources and really put it into having one great podcast rather than several different podcasts, then that would be great. So the youth Between Two Worlds podcast is still going to be their own entity, and also, apologetics and other ones that are kind of side podcasts that are done by ministries operating in our church are going to be on their own. But our extra podcast, which has been a long-term one that has been mostly the preaching pastors, and this bonus will be combining. And so we'll have one.
And we get kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Like you and I have been known for our preparation and planning, and they really like that.
Yeah.
And they have been known for their banter, which they are not as happy with, the amount of banter, and they've been known for excellent points added to the message.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do a little bit of the extra points with their pastors and us.
Yeah. So before we we'll give you a little bit more details on the future podcasts as we go along. But we thought we would just do a little reflection, since this is our last one, of why we started this podcast in the first place and some of the highlights over the last couple of years. And we hope that you find that interesting. So why did we start it, Thaleia?
Well, at our summer pastor elder retreat with our families in 2013, Jeff came to Kristal and I and said that we should start our own podcast, which was completely a bit like scary and mind-blowing and what are you talking about kind of idea.
We had a little panic attack there at the first.
We did, yes. Because I think the preaching pastors were already doing the extra podcast
they've
at
been
that
doing
point.
it for about a year or so, yeah.
Okay. We didn't have a recording studio in our church ready at that point. It was simply one room, wherever you could find it, dedicated with a table and a funny tablecloth that we still have now, and a microphone between a variety of people participating.
Yeah, so I can picture us in the green room, like behind the sanctuary, in some of the upstairs classrooms. I think that was the worst sound.
Yeah. The lounge downstairs in the basement.
Yeah, we tried the library to see if that would help kind of deafen the tinniness with the books. Yeah.
With our portable microphone.
Yeah. We've recorded some even like remotely, or we tried actually at the Gospel Coalition, but that actually didn't ever get aired. But those were efforts that we tried.
And Jeff really wanted you and I to focus on making the Bible, like all of our teaching and studies, practical for everyday living.
Yeah.
And he thought the women of our church would benefit by hearing from you and I on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the idea of kind of kitchen table theology. That was one of the ideas that we kind of bantered around for a name.
I know.
Because that idea of when you sit down after a message and talk about, okay, how does the rubber hit the road here for us? And how does this make a difference in our lives? And how should it change our thinking and our actions?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we had envisioned this podcast to be.
And so for a while, we did it every other week.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember how long ago we decided to switch to every week.
Yeah. Maybe that was a bad idea.
That was a little
we started
hard.
getting tired because it's just hard to fit in every week
Yeah.
with both of our schedules being busy, and then trying to come up with new ideas every week.
Totally.
Was challenging when it was just the two of us.
Which is why I'm really excited about this new podcast where we work together, because we'll have a variety of voices that will be on it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be on every week because there's a number of us.
Yeah, but we can still be part of it and be on probably twice a month or so for sure. Yeah. The other reason we wanted to do it, I think, is because, Thaleia, you were finding that you're having so many one-on-one meetings with people and saying the same thing to lots of people in a row.
Yes.
And you thought, if there's a way I can tell 100 people this rather than just one person, it just really makes my job easier, or just makes it feel like it's more that my teaching or whatever what I'm sharing is
Yeah.
more accessible to more people.
And that's been very, very helpful because
Yeah.
you've been a very good sport to work with me on a variety of topics where I said, Kristal, can we please talk about this because a variety of people need to know. Things
Yeah.
like anxiety and miscarriages and sanctity of life, like talking about abortion and birth control pills and things like that. We've had resources where I can direct people to.
Yeah, I think that's been one of my, I didn't think about it as a outcome initially, but it's been one of my favorite things about the podcast is that we've recorded some series like a couple of years ago and people still come up to me with those questions and I
Yeah.
can say, okay, listen to these podcasts and then let's talk.
Yeah.
And then I at least know that they've had a base of information
Yeah.
that they can work from because they kind of know how we've talked about it before. So
Yeah.
the women in leadership one was one that was a big one for that. I've referred so many people back to that one. We've had a lot on gender and sexuality,
Yep.
LGBTQ stuff. That has been a good resource. Anxiety, depression ones. Yeah.
I've loved the how to honor parents that are dishonorable. Can't remember the exact title we did.
I think it was just honoring your parents, but yeah.
Okay. That was very helpful and has continued to be helpful. And we even re-aired it last summer, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people in our church who have either come to faith late and just have this baggage from their past or just still have a lot of dysfunction in their families and they're trying to figure out how to be Christians with parents who aren't necessarily following the Lord or doing it in weird ways, passive aggressive kind of things. So yeah, that was super helpful. I think I've also really liked just chatting with people and having them kind of chew over what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I'll run into somebody and they'll say, oh, I just listened to you and Thaleia talk about that and this is my thoughts on it. Or you're just hearing that it's making an impact in people's lives and the way they're thinking about things.
I've really loved coordinating guests. That's a bit challenging too because of people's schedules. But when we get guests, we have been it's just been such a gift to hear their stories, where they've come from, where they are now, how God has worked in their life on a whole variety of issues.
Yeah, we get to know them better on a more personal level, and they get to share their story and their expertise. Like when we had Andrea Heath and Jackie Visser and others who are like in the medical field, and we've had Jackie Graham, who's a counselor, and we've had some like Marilyn and Shelley, who are just women from our group that have unique life experiences to share. And
Erin Peters was regular.
Yeah.
Nancy Steiger and Rebecca Meeker. We've had some great guests.
Yeah.
Actually, men too. Greg claims the title as being the most often guy on our podcast, one of our pastors here.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had, a lot of the other staff, Johnny and Jonathan, our worship people and our apologetics and our Imagine ministries.
Yeah.
That's been also another fun thing is to highlight the ministries of our church.
Yeah.
And so that people know more about what goes on behind the scenes.
Like last year when Dwight was new as children's pastor and we got to interview and talk about his vision for this coming year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. I have not I didn't anticipate as many listeners that didn't go to Northview listening. I've been surprised. I went to a conference last year in January and I met a woman from Maple Ridge and she said, oh, you're Kristal, right? And I said, yeah. She said, oh, I listen to your podcast all the time. And that was something I thought Northview people might listen. I had no idea that other people might.
I think we've also been surprised at how many men listen. We originally thought, well, it would be women that would listen, and which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then you run into Joe, our
Mission.
faithful listener in Mission. Hi, Joe. And he has just been so great in giving us feedback and encouragement.
Yeah. Steve Wientz listens to a lot of them, keeps us honest. He's our boss. So,
I know. Some of our elders.
Yeah,
it's been good.
Yeah, really good. And then I think one of the other highlights has just been having the opportunity to expand on weekend messages.
Yeah.
We had a couple series of, one was called Modern Family, which was all about family issues.
Separation, divorce, things like that. Abuse.
Singleness, And we all know that in a 30 and 40-minute sermon, there's only so much that people can say. And so it gave us an opportunity to say, okay, we know that this is what the pastor said, but what else do we want to add? What do people need to know?
Yeah, that has been really helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that as we combine our efforts because we still have those kinds of topics coming up.
Yeah. And we'll give you we're giving teasers for what we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
I know.
But I'm excited about that. And it'll be good to hear from, it's been you and I and a few guests speaking into it, but it'll be good to hear from Jeff and from Greg and from Paul and from others on some of these topics.
Oh, yeah. Andy and Kyle and Imran and Dwight. And we're going to pull in everybody. Well, they are all pulling us in too.
Yeah.
And the Immerse students.
Yeah.
Sarah and Kendra and Colin and on. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be really good. Yeah, so I think that has been super fun. One thing that's always been a joy for me too is when we have guests who come who say yes, because we have had people that just this idea of being on this podcast freaks them out.
Yes.
So we've had many people say no.
Yes.
So that's been an interesting thing to think through. First of all, we were terrified to do it.
Absolutely. I think
the first year or
probably
two.
for the first 4 years for me, maybe this last year hasn't been so bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm a slow learner.
Yeah. And people come into this room and they see the 4 microphones and their eyes grow big
Oh, yeah.
and they start panicking. And we just have to reassure them, just look over the phone or
Yeah.
everything at each other and just have a coffee kind of conversation
Yeah.
like you're at a coffee shop.
And they're all, the ones who've come, they're
Yeah.
all really thankful they did it and they really enjoy the experience. But it is terrifying to start.
Yeah. Because we're all scared of saying something that we're going to regret later.
I know.
Often people ask me, so if I mess up, can we erase that part?
And
I
we
said,
have done
"We have."
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There have been times where I've asked Brian Schmooland or one of our other tech people to say, can you take out that little part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been for you and I a huge tech learning curve.
Yeah.
It's not been easy to figure out how to do GarageBand and make sure all the microphones are working
No,
and
we're not
recording
really
properly.
the tech people. Like we're
No.
the Bible teaching and the pastoral care
I
people.
know.
So
And there's been a number of times where we thought we recorded it and we finished the podcast and we're all happy. And then we look and go,
there's
there's
no lines.
no lines. It did not record. And thankfully, our guests have always been gracious to do it again.
Yeah.
But,
That's
I'm
only
so
been
sorry.
like 2 or 3 times.
I
but
know.
It has. There's been a few times that it's just been you and I and we've
I
had
know.
to redo it.
I
That's
know.
not quite so bad. But
No, it isn't. But that's a major fail.
yeah.
Thankfully, you as listeners don't know that.
No. But we just told you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's been some of the growing pains. It's been something Thaleia and I found since being here on staff that we are never going a week without being pushed and stretched
I know. It's
in
true.
some way to do something different.
Yeah.
And so that's what this podcast has been for us,
Yeah.
part of that stretching experience.
Yeah.
So as we think about going ahead for the
Yeah.
future, let's give a little bit more detail as to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So Kyle and Sarah and Thaleia and I sat down a week ago.
Paul would have liked to be there, but
Yeah,
he was on
he was on
holidays.
holidays.
Yeah.
And we started a Google Doc spreadsheet with
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of topic brainstorming. And we've since then had people that weren't able to be at the meeting chime in
Yep.
their stuff, Greg and Steve and other people. So we have a schedule basically right now to the end of January, which is fun to think
Yes.
about. And I think good topics. So what are some of them that you can think of, Thaleia?
Yeah, I'm excited about a number of them. So we know that things like marijuana is supposed to be legalized this fall, so we're going to talk about that. We know there's an election coming up. We're going to talk about that. We also have some of the topics that are a little bit more my favorites, which is like sexuality and gender, hospitality. We're going to talk about that's our first one actually in September.
Yeah.
I'm coordinating that, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about being a Christian in sports.
Yes.
Because lots of us have kids in sports and we've been wrestling with how are we actually being a witness
Yeah.
there. So I think Jeff and Kyle and Imran and me are going to be part of that one. Christians and work. How do
I
we
know.
understand work as vocation and calling? And does that mean you have to be in Christian ministry? You know, that, or can your work as a carpenter be a vocation and be honoring to God and glorying God?
Yeah. We're going to talk about Halloween,
Yeah.
different ways that we approach Halloween as Christians. There's a whole variety, so that will be interesting.
Yep. We have some topics around Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
about eating, drinking, and being merry.
Or what's the one we said about, is it really the most wonderful time of the year?
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the topics might sound like things that we would normally do on a bonus podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which we might do a topic like that. And that's great. And then some of them will be a little bit more theologically chewy
Yeah.
in terms of, some of the other. We're going to talk through 18 words that Christians should know.
Yes.
And there'll be some of those big words that we often hear in sermons and we have no idea really what they mean.
I
And so we're
know.
going to try and break some of those down.
We were at a young adults Bible study. Crystal's been leading one this summer. And one of the girls asks, what does atonement really mean?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, like, yeah, we throw around words in church easily, but we haven't really defined them well.
Yeah.
Justification and sanctification and even glory and mercy and grace. What do they really mean? And so that kind of got me going, and I'm excited about that's in January, I think, right? That topic?
Yeah. So we're going to try and make it, so something that you can kind of sink your teeth into a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. You can kind of see how those words play out. And then we'll probably make fun of some of the Christianese that gets
Oh, I'm
thrown
sure.
around.
I'm just absolutely sure we'll do that.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were making fun of Christian sayings like praying for hedges of protection
Oh,
around
yeah.
people.
Traveling mercies.
I know. And someone's like, I still don't know what that hedge is and where the hedge should be.
I know.
So it's funny to think of the things that we throw around and think that everyone should know what we mean.
I know, it's true. And we'll probably talk about that in our hospitality one early September, because part of being hospitable is making sure people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and who we are and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So that they don't feel like they're lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same podcast that I was listening to on hospitality, the speaker on it his name's Sam Alberry, and he was encouraging every male pastor to walk into a salon and go get a pedicure, because he was saying then you'll know what it feels like to be a visitor in your church, because you feel completely out of place. You don't know what all the terms are, and what kind of wax you're supposed to put on your feet, and what kind of all these things that you'll feel like an outsider in this spa. And he says that'll give you a good insight to what someone feels like walking into your church.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting challenge to put out there.
Yeah, we can do that in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Like I think on this podcast, I've said a number of times, I remember being a new martial arts parent and a new ballet parent. Like, what does that mean? Because I didn't grow up dancing or with martial arts.
Yeah.
And I try to keep those feelings fresh for me, so I know that when people walk into a men's Bible study and they've never been there before, that I remember how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're excited about this. Like Thaleia said, we're going to pull in all kinds of staff members, like the Dwights and the Johnnies and the
Primarily pastors.
Yeah, primarily pastors.
We have a few guests on the schedule.
Yeah, and then a few guests. So we've talked to Ed and Annette Fast about coming on the politics one.
Yeah.
So we're trying to organize that with them. And the Christians in work, we're going to try and get a few of the people from our congregation that work in other fields, not ministry.
We thought we would originally do pastors mostly to start with this fall, so that you get to know everybody that's on the podcast. And then we would increase the guests as we go forward, like into the spring.
Yeah. The other thing we're going to do, so there'll be the weekly extra, it's what it'll be called. And then we're going to have a number of different series podcasts, like Netflix will release a new series like The Crown or whatever, and all of a sudden there'll be 8 shows for you to watch.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're thinking to do as well, so that if we have a particular topic that we think needs a few podcasts to explain, we can do that in a really concentrated way.
Yeah, you've already done one.
Yeah, we did. We recorded one in July on the whole idea of stewardship, how we handle money and finances. And so that's going to be made available to everybody in September.
Okay.
And so then the idea is to do maybe 3 or 4 series like that a year.
Yeah.
And so I think Kyle wants to organize one on the whole doctrine of election.
Yes.
Because that is something that is going to come up in a Romans series as we preach through Romans this year. How do we understand the way God chooses people?
And we were going to do that for a Saturday morning study session.
Yeah.
And then we thought, well, if we did it in a podcast form, then we could get it out to more people, because more people could listen as they commute or as they walk or run or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Than the amount that could come to a Saturday morning study session.
Yeah, and then they don't have to take time out of their day
Yeah.
to be here on a Saturday morning, because we all have a million things
Yeah.
we should be doing on a Saturday. So, yeah, so I think that idea of the sermons or doing podcast series is also super intriguing.
Yeah.
It'll help us be really concentrated and, again, give us that feeling like we have a resource to pass on to people.
Yeah. And I think if you have ideas, send them to Kristal or myself. My email is ts, just my initials, @northview.org. We have a list of ideas that we think are great.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking heaven and hell, demons and angels, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what else we were talking about. Do you remember?
That was the next one. I think the heaven and hell, demons
Yeah.
and angels was for January.
Trinity.
Yeah.
God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. We were thinking of things like that. But if you have ideas, just send them to us.
Yeah. And I think they would like to do, Jeff kind of like to do a Christians in the world kind of idea. And so combine some of these, like Christians in sports, Christians in work,
Yeah.
Christians in politics, kind of some of those ideas maybe together into another, just a series
Yeah.
that's available as a chunk.
Well, because a half-hour podcast will only get us so far.
Yeah.
So if you did 4 half-hour podcasts, you could go much farther and deeper. That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the 2 things we'll be doing this year. So the extra, right now, what we're doing is planning to record those on Tuesdays at 1:30. So sometime Tuesday afternoon, the podcasts will get up, is the idea. And then the series podcasts will just be as they're recorded, and probably 2 or 3 times every kind of term, I think. So maybe 4 or 6 of those a year is the plan. So you can kind of keep thinking as you look for podcasts to download. You can expect ours to be kind of midweek.
And if you've heard about the Thursday morning theology class, which is like 6 a.m. on Thursdays, and if you can't go, that doesn't fit in your schedule or all those kinds of things, we're going to do a podcast after that class is finished, the teachers of that class, which is primarily Jeff, Greg, Kyle, is that it? Who
Sometimes
else?
Paul does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is that they'll come out of that class and then go record a half-hour podcast on the highlights of what they were learning.
Yeah. So just a brief one, nothing that needs extra real prep, but so that other people who can't make that 6 a.m. class can participate in some of that learning experience.
Yeah. So you could sort of keep your eyes open for that too.
Yeah. So if you are a regular subscriber to the bonus podcast on iTunes or Google Play, what you'll want to do is search iTunes and Google Play for the extra podcast,
Yeah.
Northviews, if you're not subscribed to that, and subscribe to that one. And that way you will get all the new podcasts as they come out.
Yeah.
So they will start September 4th, I think is the first day.
Yeah.
So next week there won't be anything, but then they'll be starting up.
I'm starting it up. I'm doing
Thaleia is the first
hospitality.
host. Yeah, I'm the second one.
Yeah.
So
You're on that one with me.
I am. Yeah.
And I don't know if Greg and Jeff know that they're supposed to be on that one. So that's part of my job is to say, hey, guys, you are
make it?
actually planned. If not, I'm sure I can go around the room because we're all trying to be a team here. So I'm sure I can find some other people. But Greg and Jeff would be great.
Yeah. So this will be promoted on our church bulletin. We're going to talk about it at the weekend services, on the website, that kind of stuff. We'll try to make it clear. Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. But as much as we try to communicate things, people still miss it. So we thought, make sure we said it here. So as we leave, then we thought we'd just kind of let you guys know what is next in store for us as we go into the fall.
Yeah, it's now the end of August. I think, Kristal, you're going to take a little holiday now before September starts up.
Yeah, leaving on Sunday for a week of family visiting. First with Bob's family, my husband's, and then with my family.
Yeah.
Hopefully houseboating on Shuswap over the Labor Day long weekend. So.
Yeah, we really hope that these forest fires will be dealt with. It is so hard to see the smoke in the sky knowing that that means there are fires.
I know, and that there's people out there fighting them and risking their lives and homes in danger and communities that are suffering.
Yeah. So I hope that not only the smoke clears, but the fires stop. Yeah. And we've been praying for that in our services.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my holidays, and then we get right in. I'm already kind of bracing myself for when I come back, it's going to be like no holds barred. Just
September
run.
Is crazy. And I know that for you as listeners, probably September is crazy as we all try to figure out our schedules and what happens when, and when do we have dinner in the midst of that?
Yeah. And then kids going back to school and having to make lunches again, and kids' sports starting up and all that kind of stuff. So
the schedules, and the driving.
I know. We've talked to different people over the last couple of weeks, and some people are so excited. Like when we talked to the young adults group about this September,
they were all excited.
Were pumped. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, all of us mums are feeling like stressed. Yeah. But I guess when you're 20 something and you don't have a lot of extra responsibilities, you're ready to go.
I know. It's true.
So for Thaleia, your fall will be a little bit different. What are you guys doing this fall?
Yeah. Well, I'm part of the team that's launching the East Abbey campus at the Abbotsford Christian Schools. So we have 3 soft starts in September, which just means it's the people in the know that will be there starting September 16th, those 3 in September. And we get to practice and figure out how this all works. Yeah. And then October 7th, which is the Thanksgiving weekend, we're launching it officially to the East Abbotsford community. So that only changes my Sunday morning responsibilities. My work exactly stays the same the rest of the week. I mean, I have more East Abbey meetings in my week, but people are understanding about that because it's a new thing.
Yeah, so a number of people have said to me, is Thaleia still going to be around?
Yeah.
So you're saying yes.
Yes.
All it basically means is you used to be on duty Saturday nights, and now you're on duty Sunday mornings.
Yes, I will be there every week unless I am on holidays. I'm not always going to be the MC on stage, but I will be present as part of the leadership team. Yeah. So that's Kristal LaForest, who's in charge of kids ministry. Todd Wickens will be our primary worship leader, and then he has a number of alternates and teams and things like that. Greg Harris is campus pastor, and myself as sort of his right-hand person. Tech, we're not exactly sure. Exactly, we have a few people that will be helping us out for the first few months because it's a very important piece.
Yeah. And Tessa will
and
be there
Tessa,
organizing.
I don't know why I forgot that. Tessa, you are amazing. And she is absolutely vital to this.
Yeah. So you will have some holidays in the midst of that. So where are you doing this fall?
Yeah. Mark and I had planned already a year ago to go with a tour to Israel. That's mid-October. So we basically launch and then I leave.
Yeah, totally.
So I'll have to warn them okay, I'm not actually abandoning this campus. I'm just gone to Israel.
Yeah.
Which will be really good. It will help me to keep learning, which we want to do. And everyone says the Bible comes alive when you go there. And so I'm assuming that will be true.
I can't imagine how it can't be.
Right.
To actually walk those places and visualize them in your mind then when you're reading.
So it's not just Mark and I. We've joined an actual tour called Pilgrim Tours or something like that.
Yeah.
And it started with a couple of Northview couples who said, we're going. And if anyone else wants to join us, we are not leading, we're not hosting, we're not teaching. We're just on this tour.
Yeah.
And so we jumped on the bandwagon, and I think there's like 30 on the bus with Northview connections.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting the opportunity to go with Kendra and Sarah, our 2 Immerse students, and other staff members to the ETS conference in Denver this year. And so that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. That is the Evangelical Theological Society conference, and they run them every year all over the States. We went 2 years ago.
I think
when
so.
It was in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was great.
Last year we didn't go.
What's the topic this year?
I don't even know.
Well, you'll have to know. They have this major booklet. It's thick where you can go and choose
like an
your courses.
encyclopedia.
Yeah, it is like the most academic conference, and yet it feels like just so encouraging. It just gets your brain going.
It's super challenging.
Super challenging. Oh, it was fantastic when we were in Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. Often, I've had these textbooks that I've read in my classes for Regent, and all of a sudden the textbook presenter is there, and I'm in a seminar with him with only 15 other people, and you get to ask all kinds of questions of this guy who you read all his stuff.
I know.
And so it's these kind of people who are top researchers, top writers, top thinkers,
top theologians
in the field. They're there, and you get to hear them talk about the book that they're just writing, or all these kind of things. And so the challenge always with that conference is figuring out how many of the 600 things you can get to, and how you can make it work, and which ones are best for kind of your specific area. We'll often kind of divide up and say, well, so and so you go to this one, and I'll go to this one, and we can compare notes after and be strategic about it.
Oh, yeah. 2 years ago, it was on marriage and family.
Yeah.
And so I got to go to one on pre-marriage and one on sexual immorality, and they were all just perfect for the work I do here.
Yeah. So that's fun for me in November. We'll be doing that. I'm also excited about the course I'm taking at Regent this year. It's Literary Approaches to the Old Testament. So looking at the Bible as literature and how we read narratives and poetry and prophecy, and that's right up my alley.
Yes.
I love that kind of stuff. So, and the thing I love about it is, in addition to the topic, is it's a Thursday afternoon class, which is so nice because my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are always
Very
crazy
full.
busy.
Yeah.
So nice to have something. My last couple of years, I've had a class either on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when my work is already super busy. So I'm glad that this one is further on in the week.
How far are you along in your master's?
I have 8 courses left.
Okay.
So if everything falls into place, I may be able to graduate in the fall of 2020.
Okay.
So it's
2 more
getting
years.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We will see. But it's been good.
It's a good goal.
Yeah. And I like playing along with it. Or working at it. We're looking forward to our women's Bible studies starting up and our men's Bible studies.
Yes.
The Exodus curriculum, we got the kind of final theological run through. Kyle and Colin and John Mulder looked it over. They're all going to be leading some of the men's stuff, and so that was awesome to have their input. It is off to our editor now to make sure that our grammar is not horrible. So we're excited about that. It's going to be awesome, and they're doing it in Mission with the men for the first time.
Okay.
It's been the men's Bible study here in Abbotsford. Last year was an inaugural year,
Yes.
and now they're starting it in Mission, and Mission women will be doing it as well. The Precept group is going to be doing the book of Daniel. They're super excited about that, and I think that'll be awesome. Daniel is such a great book, teaching us how to live counterculturally in a world that is, very secular, and so that's going to be awesome. And then we're running the Bible overview class on Monday nights too, and that is a class that we can't just get enough of. So
What I like what you've done this year, Kristal, is if you go onto the website, if you go under women and you look at their page, they have their studies divided up into daytimes and evening studies, as well as past resources and upcoming events and all kinds of things. But that way you can kind of look at, if you're only available during the day or only in the evening, you can look at what's available. There's a wide variety.
yeah,
So that's good.
yeah. There's a variety of topics and then of kind of homework levels.
Yeah.
And so some our mission groups have one that's a no homework level. You just come, but you're still studying the scripture while you're there together. And then there's a couple, the Exodus is a little bit more than that, and the Precept is a little bit more than that. So depending on your time, your energy, and all those things. And then the daytime ones also have childcare available. So that's another good option for people to know about.
And I think if you're listening from another church and you want some resources, you can contact Kristal easily.
Yeah.
What's your email, Kristal?
Women@northview.org is
Okay.
the easiest. So
You can ask her about the resources she's used in the past or is currently using and talk to her about it.
yeah, all of our stuff is available to download if you ever want to use any of it. It's on our website, all of our workbooks. We have past, we've recorded our sessions, our teaching sessions. And so we have even some women in our church who are at home working through what they've done on Wednesday morning Bible study or whatever with another group of women at home. And they're working through the same curriculum, watching our teaching videos and then talking about it. So they're adapting kind of what we've done as a large group into their own studies. And so anyone from any church would be welcome to do that.
Yeah.
If they want to. We're hoping to get that even more accessible in the future, because if we have new campuses starting up and we want to duplicate what we're doing here, it'd be really helpful to be able to just have better quality video and teaching and stuff so that it's easy for people as we're developing new leaders. So that is exciting. We also have a retreat coming up in April. So keep your eyes peeled.
Where will we be this year?
We're going to Rock Ridge
Or next
Canyon.
year? Rock Ridge Canyon.
Yeah.
Up by Princeton.
So I've never been there, but everybody raves about it as a beautiful location.
I haven't been there either.
Yeah. So that's something to put in your calendar.
Okay.
And away weekend, the first weekend of April,
Oh, okay.
6th, 7th, 8th, something like that.
And Easter is...
It's the weekend before Easter. So
Okay.
it's the weekend between spring break and Easter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a week. There's like 2 weeks in between. And
Okay.
this is on that weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we hope a lot of you can make it. It gives an opportunity for more people to come. And it's a beautiful facility.
That's what I hear.
And yeah, people like getting away and getting to know each other. So I think that'll be good.
There's a lot of exciting things coming up.
Yeah. So I think with that being said, anything else that we need to say?
I don't think so. You want to just pray for us?
Sure. Yeah. Lord, I thank you so much for the opportunity that we have had to do this podcast together. Thank you for Thaleia and for her partnership in this and the joy that we have had as friends serving together in this and brainstorming ideas and laughing about things and having shared memories.
True.
So Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity that we've had to just enjoy this time together. Thank you for all the people who have given us ideas and input and just for the way that you have used these podcasts to glorify yourself. And we just pray that they've brought honor to you. So I just pray for all our listeners as they go into September, that you would be with them, that you would guide them by your Spirit, that you would continue to protect them and teach them and guide them. Thank you, Lord, that you are with each of them wherever they are. And we just pray your blessing on them. Pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for joining us.